Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ganch Menagerie. I am Ganch, and today I wanted to take a moment to talk about another aspect of the camp or of the hobby that I really enjoy, which is role playing games, and get your thoughts on narrative and role playing. How how much does that drive you, or what aspects of that is involved in your hobby? So just so you're not staring at a blank cutting mat, super high tech. You know, we'll just bring these guys in. So this is my current range of completed RPG minis, or yeah, RPG minis. That's a good way to describe it. And we'll just take a look at these guys while I waffle on a little bit. So I started playing D&D when I was 18 years old. I was at a local mall, and there was the D&D open day or something from Wizards of the Coast was putting on. I sat down and played a one shot of 3.5, and I fell in love with the game. I've always been a bit of a nerd, etc. So it felt like coming home. So then I got all the books, I got etc., and I started trying to be a dungeon master. And I've had campaigns, start and die and try, etc. Scheduling even at 18, 19 is difficult, right? So fast forward to somewhere in my 30s, and I'm overseas, and we're talking to one of my now players, Pierce, and he'd mentioned that he heard about D&D, wanted to try it. Well, lo and behold, I have all three core books and dice, and I'm more than happy to. If you want to get a group together of your buddies, we can run a session. Lo and behold, I'm now then sitting around a table with, I think I had 7 or 8 at one point. 8, I think, was the highest number. With one, yeah, 8 was the highest number. 6 of the guys had never played before. One guy was another DM, and it was a fun experience. It was a good time. It made a difficult situation better to be able to escape from reality for a while and tell a story around a table with a bunch of dudes. It was a good time. It was a good time. Fun fact, I feel like a vampire patriarch, matriarch, whatever word you want to use to describe it, because by getting Pierce into the hobby and also Ashton, one of my other players, they have now gone on and started their own campaigns and DM'd. And then Pierce was telling me a story of how he went to a school that he had to be stuck on post at for the military, and he took his books with him, and he like, well, we're stuck here. Well, we can just go play D&D. And next thing you know, he's running a campaign there, and then all of a sudden, this another guy is sitting there looking at this, going, well, that's kind of stupid. Why are you guys doing that? Just chucking dice and sitting around a table looking at paper. Well, then Pierce is a very persuasive person, and he's like, "Well, just come check it out once and see what you think." So the guy comes and he sits and he watches and he tries it out once, and then next thing you know, they get a pass and they go off to the nearest town to the game store to get dice and etc. And the guy buys all three core books and a set of dice. And last I heard, or Pierce heard, he was running a campaign for his group of friends back at his hometown. So there's a in a roundabout way, there's a DM created because I created Pierce as a DM, and it makes me chuckle in a weird fantasy way that I created another DM that we shared the hobby in a way that was enjoyable enough experience for someone to then go out and share it with other people. And that's, I think, the aspect of the hobby I enjoy is the social aspect of it and the narrative aspect of it. So I really like narrative. We play very fast and loose rules. I think we have a mix of 2014, 2024 rules for the D&D 3.5 set within my group currently, and it doesn't bother me because all my players are younger guys. They're starting their careers, starting their families, etc. And I get them maybe once a month for like 3 to 4 hours to sit around, bullcrap with, and tell a story. And I really enjoy the time I do get to sit around the table with them and feel feel close to my guys. Like, we have shared experiences together. One of my oldest buddies in the world is also in my campaign because it is fortunately online, so he can join in. Weaver, if you're watching this, I love you, brother. Um, so it's really cool to do, and I just again go back to the main point is how important is narrative to your gaming experience. If you're a role playing gamer, I mean it's very important because that's what you're doing. You're telling a story. But I guess the follow-on question to that is, do you prefer pre-mades or are you a homebrew world guy? So if you're not familiar with role-playing games, there are some great writers that create missions for you that the dungeon master has to do is read the thing or read the mission set, and gives you a story that you just have to modify based on your player's actions. Or are you like me, excuse me, and do you prefer creating your own world? I prefer creating my own world. I feel like it gives you more flexibility and allows more buy-in to your characters. My one player Ashton, who is also one of my other DM offspring, I guess I'm going to call him. He built an incredibly in-depth and powerful backstory for our campaign that helped create and drive our overall story arc. With that, his backstory as a baseline being that robust, that allowed me then to take pieces from my other characters who weren't as in depth or as robust, and then tie in still to bring the party together. Because I don't know, other DMs might have a better option than I did for this, but when you go to walk into a tavern, four strangers walk into a tavern, and all of a sudden you have a mission together. It's really hard to buy. Why are you guys going to work cooperatively together, right? That just makes it hard. But if you are able to tie in the narrative of, well, you're doing this because you're doing this for revenge, and you're doing this to protect your family, you're doing this because you have a blood oath, etc., you then have buy-in from all your characters. This is why you're working together, even if your characters' personalities and sometimes real personalities don't clash, or they do clash, and wouldn't normally be with these people. You're doing this for a greater cause than you're putting up with them because etc. Kind of reminds you of workplace training and work relationships. One thing you might notice is I do have a lot of dwarves. I have a soft spot for the dwarvish races. I was in the military for 12 years and I was only allowed to have a mustache, and I prefer to wear a full beard. So now that I'm out and able to wear my full beard, I like to share my bearded brethren in my painting cabinet and on the tabletop. So I waffled on for a bit there. So the other aspect about D&D, besides the narrative, and bringing this up because this is my Thalgren Silverheart. He's my actual model representing my in-person light cleric for D&D in-person group I have. So the other aspect, besides the narrative, I really like campaigns. I like campaigns in. My guys started one of the start for level 5, which was fine. We did that, and so again, it's fast and loose. So far, so good. They do some badassery around the table and make my head hurt as they do things. I'm like, well, that was supposed to be more challenging than it was. All right. Plan B. Then Plan Z comes up, and we adjust fire. We adjust fire. We're dungeon master. But campaigns are fun because I like the aspect of a level 1. Starts off with barely any skills, becomes a level 10, say at some point, and all the challenges that go through failed dice rolls and failing tests and failing to hit somebody. How does that play out in the story? Like, have you ever made a character break their leg in the middle of a dungeon? I haven't yet, but I would like to see how the other characters would respond to that, and then healing doesn't work, etc. Just adversity is in our lives no matter what we do and what we, as in our real world lives. But when you read any story, fantasy or science fiction, etc., there's got to be adversity that has to be overcome by the protagonist to then solve the problem, tell the story. The challenges of overcoming the problems are the backbones of stories. So campaigns are really, I think, really important to, or I really enjoy campaigns. I know that in the wargaming side of the hobby that campaigns can become really unbalanced, etc. And it'd be interesting to find a system that finds the right balance for that and play a campaign in a war game, because instead of just lining up your armies and throwing a bunch of hot lead at each other, well, I don't want to send this unit into combat that's going to perish, because I can then have this unit in the next game. Those challenges, I think, add another layer in depth, or those decisions add another layer in depth to the hobby as a whole. I think, be it either D&D or role playing games or wargaming. So another thing I talked about in the 18 previous takes of this video I've done so far is I really do think that the way models are sculpted can almost tell a narrative. Like this one in particular, I don't think I did her justice, but I really love this sculpt. I think I'm going to buy her eventually in a larger scale for a statuette and try to paint her a lot better. But the sculpt, just to me, there's a story there. Hello, Bubba. Sorry, one of my menageries interrupting our videoing. Excuse me a second. I apologize for that. I had a giant German Shepherd head come and want to say hi, right, and knock some things around. So again, I apologize. But there's a story in that pose of that sculpt. And like with this model here, this is another Etsy purchase. In my head, I picture when I see this, I see a city on fire in the night and ashes flowing and wind blowing, and her walking out of a dark alley with her hounds and letting them off lead to then go, okay, boys, we're about to go do something, like get the hell out of my city. That, I just love that sculpt. Again, I don't think I do some of these sculpts justice, but they are fun to do. I don't know where you all stand on giving out gifts of minis, but this is one example of when I think we were month 3 or 4. I painted all my guys' minis to represent their characters. And then as we've been playing, and now we've reached a year for our campaign, I'm like, I needed something. My painting table is looking too sparse. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? I'm going to paint up my players' spouses or partners' minis of what they think that they would, excuse me, races they would play, characters and race they would play. This is Ashton's partners. He figured that she would play a elvish druid, and she was really fun to paint up. I really enjoyed her. And then my buddy Weaver, his wife, he said would be a dwarvish fighter, and I painted her up for her. And this is just kind of my thank you to the spouses of, thank you for letting me steal your guys for, one weekend a month to sit around and talk a bunch of bullcrap, because they're good dudes and they have busy lives, and I get it, you have people in your lives you need to take care of, but it's nice to be able to steal them. But the other two I can't show. Narcisco's spouse, congratulations, Narcisco, he's actually getting married here next month. Her model was actually in her hands, and then my buddy Pierce, I was actually able to meet up with him and give his spouse her model as well. And then, of course, we have to have some antagonists to our protagonists. So this owlbear was a 3D print I picked up at a local convention. And then, lastly but not least, the piece de resistance, one of my favorites. Thodrick Stonebow, I called him. I was walking around the same local convention, and I saw this mini, and I'm like, that is the mini of the character I want to play for D&D if I ever play D&D again in person. I did mention I'm playing a dwarf cleric, but that's because of the setting, etc. If ever I get a chance to play a homebrew session again, this is who I want to play. A dwarvish ranger with his bear mount. Come on, thank you. With his bear mount. This was really fun to paint up. I really enjoyed this. Do you ever have those models you just see where like I really want to paint that? I'm pretty sure I've asked this question once or twice before, but this is one of the ones where I'm like, I really, really want to paint that. Pardon me. Okay, sorry about that. My menagerie was setting off of. They heard something outside that they had to let me know about. So I've waffled on for a little bit, but there's another game out there called 5 Leagues from the Borderland, and there's also 5 Parsecs from Home, which is miniature agnostic, can be solo played. I think eventually I will want to try to play that with these. I do have the book. It's just finding the time currently. But you can create in a party with miniature agnostic, so I can use any of these minis for the good guys, bad guys, etc., and play that game. And I like that. And it tells a story of the random dice rolls develop the story as you go. And just again, a double tap on the question I asked at the beginning is, how important is narrative to you in your gameplay? I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say. But I'm going to go ahead and sign off and appreciate you all for taking the time to listen. And may your dice roll well and your paint flow smoothly. Thank you.